sometimes considering or thinking about these big topics as stress, worry, burnout, mental unrest, just feeling bad, is that it's multifaceted and really complex. It's it's kind of sort of like one of the hardest problem to solve, because it's again so complex. And just as a heuristic device, I think Ken Wilber's four quadrants is a good start, just to somehow conceptualize or get an overview about the complexity of it. If someone says, I'm feeling down, or I'm feeling burned out, or, just having mental unrest, mental problems, feeling depressed or feeling anxious, or whatever it is. How do we know what the problem is aside from the person feeling down? I mean, how would we know? How do we know what it is? Of course, we can ask them if they just got like beat up by a friend. Yeah, that's probably it. But if it's not, if it is a chronic thing, and it it goes on for weeks, and there's no obvious sign of, or obvious cause of it, then what is causing it? That is the problem. That is the problem to solve. Doesn't necessarily we don't necessarily always need to know what causes it in order to solve it, but in making a diagnosis, not literally a diagnosis, but just diagnosing the problem, it is often a good thing to have some sort of awareness of it, or at least what it can be, and then we have to try things out. But that's the thing again, trying things out. How do we know where to start even? Because the problem is as complex as a human life can be. And that is what I like about Ken Wilber's four quadrants. They take that into account, basically. They take the complexity into account, and they and they try to, or he's trying to make it a bit more simple, I guess, than the actual reality. It's just a map. It's just a way of thinking about it. But I think it's it's a good start, and just to see how complex it is. So he divides it in a subjective space. Like we have a subjective experience. We have depression, for example, that is internal to us. We feel depressed. We have that sensation in ourselves, and in a subjective for the individual, we can see here that it says, thoughts, emotions, memories, states of mind, perceptions, and immediate sensations. But on the flip side, or on the other side of that, there's an objective reality, or a physical body and a brain, and and he calls it the it, as opposed to I. It is the objective instead of the subjective, and anything that you can see and touch or observe scientifically in time and space. So, like a pen, like a person, like a brain, like a tumor. Yeah, all those things, and measuring, brain waves, measuring neurotransmitters, for example. All those things can be done. They can be measured and seen in the brain. They are objective measurements, and so so for example, let's say that someone has, the reason why, we don't really know why SSRI, the like the Prozac or other types of antidepressants are called selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So we have serotonin in our brains, and the idea is that if we have like this is just made up. This isn't a mechanistic explanation that is true. It's just an explanation. But anyway, let's just go with it and say, okay, the reason why someone is feeling depressed is because they have too little serotonin in their brain. So we give them these SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So they inhibit the reuptake of serotonin. So there's more free serotonin in the brain. And we say that, yeah, maybe the person also says in their subjective space that their thoughts and emotions and memories, maybe not memories, but states of mind, that their depression has lifted to some extent after taking these pills. So we would think, yeah, the explanation would be these physical pills that the person took and inserted in their physical body were then went to this physical reuptake, these neurotransmitters, and inhibited the reuptake of serotonin. And the person on the inside, not in the physical inside, but the inside actual experience in their own consciousness, they felt better because of that, because of the physical physical change in their physical body. So that's like a really simplistic way of thinking about depression or mental unrest, and seeing it from the lens of the objective causing it and also relieving it. And the subjective space is a sort of a epiphenomenon then of the physical manifestation. So we change the physical world, and the interior inside, our own experience changes. Let's say that we just got dumped by our partner. That is it is a physical activity, right? We have a physical partner who says, I don't want to be with you anymore. I'm leaving for someone else, someone better, more handsome, more mature, more enlightened. See ya. And so that happens in the physical world. But our understanding of it is inside of our own minds. I guess it can be debated where does the understanding really reside. But in Ken Wilber's matrix, or his quadrants rather, he has this intersubjective we space in which we have meanings, shared values, language, relationships, and cultural background. So relationships, not in terms of just the physical people around you, but the intersubjective, so subjective, so not just your subjective experience, but things that you actually experience with other people. You have a relationship that is not just two physical bodies standing next to each other. You have a shared understanding, shared values, perhaps, and you say to each other, or you used to say, "We are in a relationship. We love each other." There's a shared understanding there, and then of course there is the objective side of that too. So there is a physical person there that you are, or physical persons if you have a family around you, for example. So you get depressed again. Now it's, or let's say it's the same circumstance. The person leaving you and you got low serotonin. But this time when you go to the doctor to get SSRI because your partner left you, it doesn't help. So you have this, And again, I mean, the serotonin mechanistic explanation isn't real, as far as I know. It doesn't work like that. We don't know why SSRI works. We don't know why most psychotropic medicines work, as far as I know. We don't know why most psychotherapy works either. We just know that it works, and that's kind of fine. We don't need to know. It would be good though to know more about the mechanisms of action, and we know some of it, but yeah, it seems to be really complex. That's why it's hard to know. That's my understanding, at least. Anyway, we're dumped. We were dumped, and and we get depressed. Why do we get depressed? Yeah, we got dumped, so it seems obvious, right? But it is an it is a subjective and a subjective experience. It's not a physical thing in the outside world. That someone is. It's not someone hitting us. It is not that we got low serotonin out of nowhere. It is something else. It's someone saying, "I don't want to be with you anymore." Why do we get depressed from hearing that? I mean, it is obvious because it's in our own experience and it's really easy to relate to it, but why does it happen? And the explanation here has to do with our meaning. We understand meaning, we understand the meaning of someone not being with us, and that meaning affects us. We realize we're going to be alone. We have all these worries come up, and feeling shame, all kinds of feelings, possible feelings. Yeah, and it affects our mood for sure. And how do we deal? How do we deal with that? Yeah, so that's let's say these SSRIs, they aren't working for us. So maybe we go into therapy or psychotherapy, and we speak about it. We speak to someone else about this relationship, our fears, our shame, regrets, how much we miss our partner, and maybe we feel better from it or not. It's not the point. It's just to say that there's another way of feeling bad that comes from the intersubjective space, or the yeah. The thing is, everything is always happening at once. So there's always a subjective experience. There's always an objective um, happening. There's always an intersubjective and interobjective happening. This is always true. These are all arising, as I think he says, Ken Wilber, that is ever present all the time, in every moment. This moment right now, we have a subjective I. We have our own experience, but we also have an intersubjective I. Even if there's no people around us, we share we share meaning with people. We share we have relationships. We share a language and culture with people that isn't just the physical exterior. When we think of culture, we'll maybe think about food and stuff like that. But it's also a way of being, a way of relating to other people, a way of thinking that other people, that a shared culture share. And then there's also, of course, the objective. We have our external world. We have, like in the interobjective with systems, we have networks, we have governments, we have the forests, we have roads and railways and all these things. And then we have the objective, more of, if we think of as the body, our physical body. And the complexity, I mean, it may not sound complex when the way I said it now, and it could be this, it could be that, but the thing is, we don't know when someone is feeling bad what the reason is or what will help. We don't know if SSRIs will help because we don't know why the person who is feeling bad, is feeling down. Yeah. It could be, lack of sleep. It could be, nutrition. It could be lack of exercise, all these things. It could be lack of meaning in the world. It could be lack of a partner again. It could be a lack of money. It could be grasping, as they say in the Buddhist traditions, grasping for things. We are grasping for things. We're looking at other people and seeing that they are doing better than we are. And that's why we are depressed. How could a doctor ever help with those things? We could just have, thoughts that are occupying our minds, negative thoughts about ourselves, negative feelings, negative self-worth. Yeah, and of course we can get help with those things. That's why people go to psychotherapy, and they can ameliorate some of those problems and concerns to some extent. The Buddha says that the reason we suffer is mostly because of this grasping and aversion. The fact that we even, because all the problems resides with the human, the individual self. So whether it's not having a partner or not having enough money or not feeling meaning in your life or feeling your body's not as you would want it to be, you have poor nutrition and feel bad because of that, whatever it is, it's always comes back to the person, right? The person is the one having the problem. And not just the Buddha, but all the mystical traditions in the world, they suggest waking up, of course. So waking up from the dream of separation, the dream of individuality, to the truth of unity. And that is an actual shift in identity. So we, instead of having our identity located purely in the egoic consciousness, shall we say, we wake up from that and realize that it was like a dream. We were falsely identified with those thoughts and feelings in the subjective eye. And now we just see them as thoughts and feelings that are just arising in our consciousness, in our own minds. But it's not we. We are not that. We are that something else. We are this very moment. So when we wake up to that, a lot of these problems disappear. It's not that they disappear necessarily in reality, but the identification with the person who has those problems disappear to more or less. And the more it does, the less of a problem those problems are. Even death becomes not really a problem because, as the traditions say, there is no birth and no death, and that is an actual experience. Not to make it into a spiritual bypass, but that is what happens with people who go through awakenings or even just have a near-death experience. They come back and are much less afraid of death, much less afraid of most things that they used to be more afraid of. So it's a big jump there in general. doesn't seem that most people, that all their fears just evaporate. That doesn't seem to be the case, but it gets much better, and they feel much better though. And there's like no real cause of it. No, there's nothing that has changed in their lives. They didn't get the new partner, they didn't get more money, they didn't get the new job, they didn't get more. Well, they got more meaning in their life because the person who was lacking the meaning disappeared. And with the disappearance, or when the egoic consciousness goes into nirvana, which means cessation, yeah, there's a newfound understanding, shall we say, a new earth, a new consciousness, a new beginning, in which nothing has changed at all. It is exactly the same, but the way you're looking at it is different. So it has radically shift. It's a radical awakening and a radical change, for sure. No need, there's no need to change anything in the objective world, the interobjective, or yeah, but there is a change within the subjective essence. So the thoughts, emotions, again, memories, states of minds, perceptions, and immediate sensations are just seen and experienced differently, especially what we call the identification with them, the identification with the egoic self, the ego, the narrative self, the self-referential thoughts. They can even stop, like, completely. So there are basically no thoughts for the person anymore. They're not thinking anymore. They're just being there. The simple feeling of being, I think, is the title of a book given by Ken Wilber again, in which he describes this feeling of just beingness, being, consciousness, bliss, Satchitananda, basically. And that is, it's not a concept, it is a concept, it is an idea, but it is also a real experience that people can have and are having right at this very moment. And in that space, I remember Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche was a famous Buddhist teacher, Tibetan Buddhist teacher, and I think he got depressions, that came and went, even as an enlightened sage, but they didn't really bother him, as I understood it. And yeah, I like the quote too by Ken Wilber. He says that through awakening, through enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, things seem to actually hurt more but bother you less. So, or feel more bothers you less. It's not that pain, or even unrest, or even the depression, the feeling of depression, it didn't go away, but there were no one there being in either grasping for something else or trying to avoiding the depression. So it flowed through him in a way in which it doesn't in most other people, because there is attachment there to other outcomes, to stopping it, to whatever. It's the acceptance of it isn't there, and then there is suffering on top of the sensation of depression. So that is a way of dealing with or understanding stress, worry, and burnout. It's, on one hand, we have all these. I also love the quote by Ken Wilber. He's a great scholar and writer and mystic and person, as far as I know. I don't know him, but yeah, he says that psychotherapy can help you stopping the dream from becoming a nightmare, whereas meditation, or spirit, that type of spirituality, helps you wake up from the dream of separation, the dream of identification. So there's different ways or avenues of approaching these problems and difficulties, and yeah, it's complex and multifaceted. And I mean, he definitely wants you to do psychotherapy if that is needed, and I would suggest that too, or changing your diet, whatever it is, working out, having friends, having a partner if you want that. But yeah, to get at the root of suffering, I think that mystical traditions have something to teach us there, and that is to doing these spiritual practices in order to wake up and relieve a lot of suffering through that process. It works. It's just a lot of work, it seems. It's always a lot of work, but yeah, if you have a really big mental struggle or depression, I think you would do well in not focusing on just spirituality. I mean, it's your choice, but I think most people do well doing psychotherapy. But to get at the core again, I think there's only one way of doing that. That is through spiritual practices, or whatever you do. Have a focus on it. Put your attention on waking up. Basically, that is the way to go to relieve suffering, or just wake up. You go through suffering even to do it. But yeah. Okay, so those were some of the thoughts about what was it? Understanding stress, worry, and worry and burnout from an integral perspective, we could say, and which includes, of course, because it's integral, awakening and